I think that everybody in this room and probably and everybody on the call, uh, everybody has a motivation that has to do with the well-being of all beings, right? If we think of the Buddhist Bodhisattva prayer, may all beings be happy and free. But the one that we always and nearly always overlook is the one that is the one I am, the one that I live as, believing that I'm not good enough or I don't matter. And so this work that we do is to clear out anything that keeps us from the clarity here, because if we don't do it, haven't done it there, what we think of as out there, what we think of as planetarily full, that we want to save the suffering of the planet, we want to relieve that. But if we haven't done it here, we ain't going to get to do it out there, right? We can't skip over here, the one I am that's caught in an early childhood constraint, a conclusion, I don't matter, I'm not good enough, and then expect to be of consequence in terms of what we call the awakening of the planet. So it comes back to oneself. It comes back to this work here, which seems to be in the wrong direction because we want the well-being of the whole of the planet. But we are the only ones who can do it here, right? And when we do it here, we make an impact into the greater reality. The way in which we come upon what's still operating here that may not be at the highest frequency of love and connection and peace and everything that we value, we come upon it by being triggered. I adore that song that Robin created about the triggers. It's such a teaching song. It has every single element in it. But the one that says the very first verse where he says, "I know what's going on. I'm triggered. It's about me," right? So when that's what our access point is, right? Whenever you're triggered, whenever you're reactive, whenever you're caught in an experience that you don't want, that's the door, that's the access point. And that's the place where we can bring the light in through the 6 steps, which is the technology we use here. There are many other ways, I'm sure. This has been the best one I've ever found. I've been doing this for how long now? 20 something. Since I was 70 and I'm 86. How long? 26 years, yeah. Yeah, but this is the best I've ever found, and it's available to everybody. What we can't do and access the 6 steps to freedom process is to put sugar over shit. Which I mean, I was a queen of that, I have to tell you. And in my codependency with a younger sister and my youngest son, I had perfected my ability to make everything's fine, really. At the same time that inwardly I was in a contraction, I was in suffering. So we can't let any little thing get by us. If it's the least thing, you can use the 6 steps to experience what that emerged from, because it has a source, and that source is in you. And that source has to do with the conclusion about yourself, right? This is such up close and personal work. The beauty of it is that when we do it, we are contributing to a planetary shift into a higher frequency. So that should be motivation enough. If you're not doing it for yourself, you can do it for the planet. But if you don't do it for yourself, you won't be doing it for the planet, no matter what good works or identity as Mother Teresa you might have, because it's still not going to be the closest in access that you have, because those closest in conclusions that we reach are universal. They come on in a group I was doing earlier this week. I was talking about the dependency that we incarnate in, right? We're totally helpless. We are at the mercy of caretakers who, by the way, are wounded, right? They're not clear either. And most of us are aware of that because of our early childhood experiences. But we come in, and so it's when we start to move in the direction of awareness, becoming the awareness of what's going on, not letting a trigger go by, that we start to make the difference in what needs to happen on the planet, to move out of polarity, where the entire the condition of the planet and the condition of all of us who incarnated on it is one of polarity, of good and bad, right and wrong. And out of that polarity, we have installed in our own self-perception that we're bad, some version of that. It's an unavoidable kind of experience, and it's an unavoidable conclusion, but that conclusion can be dispelled by the light of our conscious mind understanding, right? What we wanted as a child that we didn't get was to be understood, to be received, to be held, to be heard, to be seen. That's what every little child wants. But the parents are little children who never got that either. Yeah. So we understand the way that this has come down over the eons, probably. I mean, I don't know when the Garden of Eden happened, but it's been a while. But we still live as if that's the nature of reality. We are responsible for shifting out of that polarity and into the light of the awake awareness that is available more and more on this planet. The reason that on the planet the polarities are so extreme right now, I think it was last week that I talked about a Nobel Prize winning theory called the theory of dissipated structures. It was by a crystal chemist named Ilya Prigogine. Some of you may have read about this because it was being expounded around the harmonic convergence and over this arc of what we call the woo-woo or the consciousness direction that most all of us have been a part of at some point. So the theory of dissipated structures, it had to do with, there's a whole version of chemistry that has to do with crystals creating. And in all of the crystal chemistry labs around the world, what they would do to see how a crystal operated or so forth was to put it into solution. And I don't know what that was like, but what would happen that this brilliant crystal chemist began to notice was right before the solution went into the next highest level of a crystalline formation, it looked like they should throw it out, right? It looked like it had turned to shit right on the slide there, right? And so this is what happens with us. And this is why reaching rock bottom often happens for people. We get to a place where there's no hope, and out of that place, the light comes on. There's a bit of light. And I think that that's what's happening planetarily right now. There's a shift in incarnational vehicles that is being pointed to by human design and the Gene Keys with Richard Rudd that's moving into a completion in the year 2027. There are all kinds of indicators of this planetary consciousness shift. And this is the main one, but we have to do our bit, right? And when you do that, you begin to know yourself as the awareness of everything instead of a victim of an early childhood experience. And as you know yourself as the awareness of everything, you're not separate, and so you're not judging. Everything is, in your experience, arising in the awareness that you are, right? It's actually happening right now, but we tend to put something out there and something in here, right? So I feel like that's happening out there and I'm sitting over here. But the reality is that out there is happening in me, in my awareness, yeah? So there's a huge shift in the way that we experience the nature of reality, at the same time that we start to experience the wide open field of allowing that I have now equated to our true heart. The field of allowing, where there isn't anything of polarity, where there's, I always say, we learned everything we needed to know, we learned from the Beatles. Love is all there is, and let it be. And the field of allowing is that letting it be and watching it move and arise. Whatever the circumstances are, there is movement there. There is a possibility for a higher order. And that's what's true within us. So today, for us to really get our part in this, really get that what you're doing in terms of your own clearing is important. It's the most important thing. It's not just for yourself because well, there's a quote from Nisargadatta, who was an Advaita teacher, that says, when I know that I am nothing, that is wisdom. When I know that I am everything, that is love. In between those two, my soul resides. But it's that thing. It's like, because we are everything, the shift that we make here influences everything. Is there more that we need to talk about?
No, that was beautiful.
Are there any questions about anything I've said? You know, I can keep talking.
What was that you just quoted, the name of the person?
Nisargadatta, he was an Advaita teacher from Bombay.
The book is called I Am That. I Am That.
I don't think he wrote it. He probably spoke it and somebody else wrote it down. Yeah, but it's good.
What was the name of the gentleman who put together the theory on
His name is Ilya Prigogine. It's Ilya Prigogine. Maybe.
So I guess I just want to check in and see, does this make sense? Is there any place that feels like, that sounds good, but I don't know, it doesn't feel feels mental, not personal? Because it's in my experience, the more I'm around you, it's a deeply, like you said, it's personal, it's very real, it's very concrete. It sounds like a theory, but it's really concrete.
You're living it all the time.
it feels like it. I think I love how you put it. It's like the way in is through the wounds.
Right.
And it's not to concentrate always on the wounds, but to use them as the way in
Exactly.
to this place of connection.
Right. To see what it is that's not allowing our experience of our true nature. There's something there that's obscuring it. And it's going to show up as a wound, as a trigger.
Katie, are you done?
I was just thinking you could spend your whole life there and not get it. I'm done.
Let me put this big for you guys. Before you say something, Katie, I just want to say, I wanted to say something. That Polly said earlier, if you're not totally happy for whatever reason, you should just be living in joy. If you're not, there's a trigger, just to know that. Okay, Katie.
Hi, Polly.
Hi, sweetheart.
Hang on, you guys, there's a problem. Not a problem.
There's not a problem.
There's not a problem, but I have to unhook for a minute. I have to unhook for a minute, guys, to turn up the volume here. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Okay.
Okay. Polly,
Hi. Where is she?
I hear him. I got some news that was okay, I got some news that sent me into a big trigger, which was around which was shocking and heartbreaking, around my mom's dog that we had just seen suddenly having lymphoma out of the blue when he was healthy 5 days prior.
Mhm.
And I love this dog. And he connects me to my father. He's young. And he's my companion whenever I go to Vermont. That's my story.
Mhm.
I'm very attached to my story. It causes me suffering. I was really wishing that you had class last Wednesday. And so I went for a walk and I thought, okay, like, what's my trigger? You know, it feels like I was just about to start a great year. I was just about to pull everything together finally and feel great about life. And then the rug gets pulled out from beneath me. And my heart feels so sad.
Mhm.
So I tried to think back to a time when something like this had occurred. And I remembered my aunt telling me this story about how one day my brother and I left all of our toys out everywhere and we were young. My dad thought he was going to teach us a lesson by gathering the toys and putting them, showing us that they were going to disappear down a well, right? And my aunt said, you know, I don't think it had the effect he was hoping for because you guys just looked at it with utter amazement and wonder, like, what's happening here? And as I remembered that story, I thought, wait, wow, like that would be me before I had so many conclusions at play. Because it was this thing that could be tragic, toys disappearing down a well, had nothing of that because we were just watching in amazement at the nature of what was unfolding before us.
Mhm.
So, you know, it made me realize, wow, I must really love emotions because they come up and I just so get sold into them to experience them, but I don't have the awareness back. You know, like when you say, you're too far in it to shine the light of awareness on it. So when I think about my mom's dog disappearing, it brings me suffering and I don't know where to go from that. And I'm totally influencing my daughter's suffering around the loss of the dog. And so is it just like we love phenomena and we get attached to it and then I should sit back and just let I don't know what to do.
Yeah, well, you love your stories. We all love our stories until we see that you know that they don't serve. The story that this dog is gone is, I mean, how often did you see him? Once a year?
Twice a year.
Once a year. Not that that matters, but the whole thing is that, well, I sometimes tell a story about my youngest grandson who was like 6 at the time, and he was driving around doing Thanksgiving shopping with my son, his father, and he was very quiet, and he's hardly ever very quiet. His name is Ojas, which means strength or vigor in Sanskrit, I think. Anyway, so Jason said to him, Ojas, you're so quiet. What's wrong? Are you worried about something? And Ojas said, well, Dad, I've been thinking about death and dying because their dog, Kona, had died within a couple of months before this. He'd gotten into some contaminated water and had that kidney thing that sometimes takes dogs out. So Jason said, yeah, it's really something that Kona died, and we know that, don't know who he mentioned died, but he said, Otis, do you ever feel like Conan's still around? And Otis said, yeah, Dad, all the time. I can feel his nose on the back of my leg, and I reach out and touch him. And Jason said, yeah, so he's really with you even now. And Otis said, yes. And Jason said, so Otis, the truth is that we're not our bodies. Cona's not his body. We are the spirit, the energy that animates the body. And we, as that spirit and energy, never die. Kona will never die. He's just not showing up here with us right now in the same way we were accustomed to him showing up. And so you just need to relax out of your fear and worry and knowing that nothing ever really dies. It changes forms, it changes expressions, but it never dies. And they were quiet for a few minutes, and then Otis said, wow, Dad, that is such good news. So with the child's heart, he just received that's not what's really happening. You know, I'm having a story here about Kona being gone, but even now I can tell Dad I experienced that he's around. The idea of loss is built into the polarized experience of this incarnation. Now you're here, now you're not, right? But the reality is without that story of loss are the drama of I that he was my dad's, that's what I associate with. And without all of that, it's just what's happening now. And being aware of your influence on Amelie is really important, because she doesn't need to pick up a story that you have that creates suffering and an experience of loss. Like to be with her around gratitude. What was his name? The dog?
Miss Blitz.
Bliss?
Blitz. T-I-Z.
Tis?
Blitz. B-L-I-T-Z.
Yeah, but so to get to sit with Amelie and be thankful for the time you had with him, right? Because he's romping around playing somewhere. He's not confined to that same body at this point. So it's like opening up the horizon, not of a fairy tale, but of a larger nature of reality. I have always thought that there's a reason that a dog is God spelled backwards, because I do think they represent such a heart connection. We have a couple of little Westies here in the Sangha that we all respond to with that appreciation and the natural joy and ease with which they express.
I guess part of me doesn't want to say something that doesn't feel like it's my direct experience.
No need, but you are thankful for him.
Yes,
That is your experience.
that's my experience.
You loved it when he was there and you would be going home. You're sad now that he's not going to be there. I mean, that's authentic.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sweetheart.
That it, Katie?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Katie. Thank you.
Yeah, Colleen.
I wondered, Polly, if you could talk a little bit about grieving,
Mm,
you know, like
mhm,
I lost a friend, a really close friend, 4 years ago.
mhm.
By myself still in this grieving process, not the same all the time.
It's not, you said it's not the same all the time?
Right.
Yeah, and so it's dependent on the way you're holding it, right? And yes, so to notice that, so that you are honest and authentic about your participation in what you're experiencing. I wish you were here kind of authentic experience when somebody's departed is, but the idea that the story that tends to roll out, I don't know what your story is, Colleen, with her, but the story that tends to roll out is one that is underpinned by our self-perception as being a victim. No matter where that occurred, I didn't get the Christmas present I wanted, or mommy and daddy left me at the side of the road and took everybody else on vacation, whatever it is, right? Because that story about that person is going to be underpinned by your own victim experience. And without that, you're just present with the one that incarnated with ingratitude that you had them, that you and she had each other, that you had the friendship, that it was, yeah. And it's, the field of allowing is so generous, right? It's,
Yeah, I can feel the different experience just in me speaking, and if it's like I can be with the loss, I can still be with the loss in a different way.
exactly.
That when the loss is being connected, the word is connected to something previous.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. Yeah, I had a husband commit suicide, and my youngest son also committed suicide. When my youngest son committed suicide, he was 27 years old. He had been diagnosed bipolar when he was 17. And he came to me and he said, Mom, I know what's wrong with me. It's my mind, and I just need a frontal lobotomy. Could you arrange that? I said, it's not legal anymore. It's like, and so over the 10 years until his suicide, he was varyingly put in jail or put in an institution or something. And then when he died, and my youngest son, the one I was just speaking about with the death conversation, it was with me at the time. And I said, Jason, how are you doing with Adam's death? I said, my heart is broken. And when I sit and meditate, I feel his baby body in my arms, But he said, Mom, I have no problem with it. I just think he's like in China. And we don't get to see him anymore. So it's like, I know who he was. I know who he is to me. And he's not here now. That was the whole story for Jason.
Let me ask you a question about that. If I heard what you said in the interaction is when we're dealing with loss, grieve with the present moment. Otherwise, we're grieving past issues that were not amended. So it's kind of like triggers of us that will never be changed.
Well, not to bring into our grieving, our victim story. Like if I feel like I was mistreated as a child or whatever, and then I say my son died, right? And now it's poor me, and that victim story came from that childhood experience. It's not coming from this one. This one is about me and my son, right? And as long as I kept it in that lane, then it was clean and it would be experienced and it would be completed. But if I bring in the past trigger, which is, whatever it is, then it embellishes and enhances the experience of the death.
And when you say don't bring in past experiences, it could even be a past experience with the deceased.
It's likely to be your own. It may be with the deceased. It may be. You may tag it that way. But if you look more closely, it's probably going to be a childhood experience of your own, where you felt like it wasn't fair, or you're victimized in some way. And this is another experience of that. So if you do the 6 steps on that in the grieving process, that would come up likely.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Did you have it, Christy?
Yeah, this last weekend,
Can you speak up a little bit so everyone can hear you?
I've been dealing with that also.
And then I'm now at Ohana. Has transitioned. And I loved her so much. And I think, and I keep feeling into it because I'm like, okay, what am I upset about? And her husband was much older than she was, and he's having to go through this love loss. And I'm like, so I sit there, I'm like, well, really, is there love loss? Really? And I'm like, no, that's not true. So I've been trying to like really sit down and separate what story I'm telling myself and what is true, because I'm like, yes, I would love to see Bob again before he transitions to go party in heaven with her. But then I just sit there and go, well, how selfish is me? You know, because he is older and has his things, and I'm not gonna wish to keep him past his time, you know. I want him to be as happy as possible. Yeah.
How is he dealing with his mate's death?
He's having a bit of a hard time. This barely happened. And
Yeah.
he's gonna call and talk to me more about it when things calm down a bit. But it sounds like it was her choice to go right now. And so it was a peaceful release from her bodily pain,
Yeah.
you know. So I'm happy for her, and just I don't know. Yeah.
I do think that and sometimes we're in touch with this with people that we're close to, but it does seem to me that our decision to leave is at some level, it's not conscious, but that it is a soul choice, just like the incarnation is. So there's much more awareness of a choicefulness about it, and that can be helpful to people that remain, or even with the dog. It's like the dog has a trajectory, has an arc of this incarnation and the fulfillment of that. So we can trust that too. It wouldn't seem to be that much their choice because of who we think they are, but I suspect they're much more conscious than we give them credit for. So I think that there are always choices going on that are not obvious. You know, my favorite quote from the Seth material is, "You're as dead now as you'll ever be." So the aliveness factor is just a matter of what vehicle is expressing it. Yeah.
So do you ever feel like it's a tragedy if someone dies?
No, I don't think I think that I don't believe that in death, basically. So nobody dies. There's a transition, there's a shift in focus. I stayed with my father as he passed of cancer, and this was in 2010. And we would always talk in the afternoons after he'd had a nap. And he was we were quiet one day, and I said, "You know, Ray, I never believed that you would actually die." He said, "Me either." So,
Oh, yeah, Katie.
I'm sorry, I'm just pushing up against my ignorance.
Our mind.
I I think there's like the element of the shock. Like when my grandma passed, I believed no one ever died. I had the experience of it.
Right.
But when it comes as a shock, like my dad disappearing, my dog disappearing with no warning, with no way of being there, it's just like a blood, I don't know, it's just like a shock. Then I have a heart, then I'm more triggered.
Mhm. Right.
Maybe my story is, it's how, like, it's not fair. It
Mhm.
happened. What's the preparation time? I mean, with my dad, the only way I could come to terms with it was like his work was done. And then I tried to come to terms with it with the dog. And I said, okay, his work's done. It neutralizes it some, but like the initial, I guess for my mind to catch up with the fact that someone's transitioning from their body outwards, like I imagine it taking time, even though that's not true. So, I mean, I imagine it was a shock to you when your son left.
Mhm.
And if I could ask, like, what if you didn't have this any story attached to your son? Um, maybe there's just no words to say about it all.
Yeah, I think, Katie, you might benefit from using this as a trigger. What I heard you being triggered about was that you didn't know, that had you known ahead of time, maybe. It's unexpected. It just comes out of nowhere and lands.
Yeah.
And it's a heartbreaking loss. So there's a trigger there around knowing and being included or made aware of there's something there for you that
Yeah,
has.
like you can be with it. Like
Mhm.
have time to make connection, to be with
Mhm.
the being, to complete it.
Right. Does that bring up, what is that, what is the feeling then?
The feeling is like a loss of not being able to know if they're okay.
Right. So it feels sad and it feels like for you, it feels somehow, I'm not sure this is in the right direction, but like you were left out, or you didn't know.
And I didn't get to say goodbye and know that, like with my grandma leaving, I felt she was okay. I felt bliss
Mhm.
with it. It felt completed.
Mhm.
I think it's something about when it's like a shock like that.
Mhm.
It's like someone leaving, but it's not completed. It's not fit. It's like there's no choice in it. My grandma had a choice. It was the timing, but she was in alignment with it
Mhm.
when she left.
Mhm. The one that's not in alignment with this is you, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so this, what
that's
you're.
what it is. I'm not in alignment with it.
And you assume or you believe that you would have been in alignment with it had you known sooner, or that you could have known, or you maybe would see him the next time and find out. But there's the trigger here is not about the one that's passing, it's about you
Yeah.
and what you think that you need in order to be at peace with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the gift that you can give yourself and to him, in this case, the dog, is that you have an idea about what being in alignment with it would look like. That
Yeah,
was
you know what it is? The story is I would never have left.
right. Yeah. Yeah, but he doesn't have that story.
True.
You made up a story about your father had completed his work. Maybe it's likely to have been true for him in terms of his incarnating the arc of the incarnation and the leaving. But because you had that story, just like you had the different story with your grandmother, she was in bliss, she was ready, she'd completed, right? So what you're actually experiencing every time is your story.
Yeah.
And you can be kinder to yourself about that. But you also may find an early experience where you weren't informed. I don't know what it is, but I suspect that you have a trigger there.
But there's a trigger around I would never have left.
Right?
I would never have left after Christmas when my dad died. I would never have left
Mm-hmm.
the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll look at that.
Yeah. Good,
Thank you.
sweetheart.
Thank you, Katie. So we have just time for Linda here.
Hi, Polly.
Who's that?
It's Linda.
Hi, sweetheart. Hi, honey.
So I have been really working with my triggers since we met. I guess it was almost 2 weeks ago, um and the trigger that came up at the time was I'm a loser, and I've been working really beautifully with it. And in terms of the story, Amazon is still blocking. I think it's a done deal. It's blocked, my book.
Mhm.
And I have other options, and I'm aware of that.
Mhm.
But in this conversation about grief, well, I just realized there's another layer here I'd like to speak to with you. So I'm looking at my options, but there's a fear that's showing up. And I think it's the same core conclusion. There's a fear that if I publish this book through a different, different publishing, self-publishing house, the same thing will happen again.
Mhm.
I'll get blocked.
Right.
Um, and so, yeah, that's what I'm up against. So I think I need a little help.
Okay. Yeah, so the trigger is that this fear that you'll be blocked, even as you take it to another self-publishing house.
Yeah, that the same thing will happen, and I'm still activating that old
Yeah.
conclusion.
Right. That you'll be stymied or blocked or limited. Yeah.
Yeah, so should we just 6-step it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
So what's the feeling of that?
Okay, so I'm feeling it's fear. I'm feeling afraid. I'm feeling a kind of a clutching in my heart. Um, I don't trust myself.
Mhm.
And I mean it's not all the time. There are moments when I'm just doing what's in front of me, and but this is right here, right now. So I don't trust myself. I feel like the world, oh, this is such a victim place, is messing with me. Um, yeah, super victim and powerless and um, grief. Yeah.
Do you have an early memory of those same feelings? The grief, the powerlessness, something's messing with me.
Well, a lot of it is the same story I came to when I was working with you with my dad leaving. But something messing with me, that's got a little different flavor.
Mhm.
um, it's like, it's not a clear memory, but it's this feeling of like younger when there was a sense that there was something in my world, could have been my parents, my grandfather, who was kind of pulling the strings and I couldn't even see what it was.
Right.
Oh my God. And it was like, yeah, like my grandfather was apparently really cruel to my mother. But I didn't, I mean, I would see her get off the phone in tears. But
Mhm.
there's was this feeling of this presence that I couldn't quite put my hand on that was manipulating all of us.
Yeah.
And I had no control and it was terrifying.
Right. Yeah, because anything that has that sense of not being known, it's not obvious. Like you, this is where you are right now with the book, like looking for another publisher. It feels like this the same kind of undermining could happen.
Yeah.
When this went on with your grandfather, and it was like a family condition, it sounds like he probably did it with others too. Was he your father's father?
He was my mother's father,
Uh-huh.
and he lived only 20 minutes away. And she called him every day, and she'd get off the phone in tears. It was just, it was this, yeah. And he was actually kind with me and really hard on my brother.
Mhm.
But even his kindness with me was laced with, anyway, it was complex.
Right, right, right. And you had a sense, children always do, especially if they're being treated differently than another sibling. Yeah, so the conclusion that you reached about yourself
Yeah. So
is
I'm
feels
feeling manipulated. I'm sorry.
right, go ahead.
I'm feeling manipulated by this force, which now appears to be grandfather. And you were saying the core conclusion.
Yeah, if you were being manipulated, you saw that this is like he must have had a mystique about him and his influence on the family because this was the with the mother connection for you. What did you conclude was that it meant that it imposed on you? How did this affect you? Or
Okay. That was something new is coming up here. There's this feeling, all right, I'm getting to the conclusion, but there's this feeling like I'm caught in the middle. You know, I'm sitting on his knee and he's being all sweet and lovey with me and not her. And I'm, well, part of it is I'm just bad for being loved or apparently loved. I'm bad and wrong and um, huh, this caught in the middle thing.
Mhm.
And I'm somehow guilty because if I let him love me, then I'm turning against my mother. Um, Whoa, I'm not quite finding it, Polly, but it's something new. Um, like I'm deceptive, I'm bad, I'm guilty, I'm
There's stuff that's not known about you that when you, like with this, if you look for a new self-publisher, not Amazon, what the next step you take, this part of you that you have this conclusion about yourself is
yeah,
coming into play. It's like because you got shut down by Amazon, now this is activated, this deep underlying idea of being bad, wrong, deceptive, whatever else might have been at play there. Now, because you've been shut down, that's been activated.
yep.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite landing on the core conclusion. If we need to move on, I can sit with it.
Yeah. And you might try writing it down.
Yeah, this
Sometimes
is
when you get
this
to
is
one that's kind of layered or hidden, it's
yeah.
to write it down and see it.
It,
And that will evoke the next
It's
piece.
very hidden and I've never pulled this piece out before. Thank you.
Good work, Linda. Yeah.
Oof.
Thank you, Linda. Okay, I'm going to turn off the recording here.